In a forgotten corner of rural Mississippi, nestled between dusty fields and winding dirt roads, lived a boy named Elijah. The world had not been kind to him. His father, once a factory worker, had lost his job when the plant shut down. His mother worked 2 cleaning jobs, and Elijah often came home to a quiet, empty house, lit only by the flicker of an old lamp and the gentle hum of the wind outside. At 16, Elijah had already become the man of the house. He fixed broken chairs, cooked what little they had, and often helped his younger sister with her homework. But what made Elijah different wasn't just his responsibility or his hardship, it was his hands. He had a gift for sculpting. It began with mud. At age 9, he would sit near the creek and mold little birds and animals out of clay, letting them dry in the sun. As he grew older, his creations grew more refined. He had no tools, only his fingers and imagination. Clay soothed him. It was the one place where the world made sense. His high school had no art program, no kiln, no one to recognize his gift. But one teacher, Mrs. Garner, saw his potential. She caught him one day shaping a perfect horse head out of cafeteria dough. "Who taught you that?" she asked. "No one," he replied. "Would you like to learn more?" Elijah nodded. Mrs. Garner brought him old art books, ceramic magazines, even a portable pottery wheel from her garage. Every day after school, Elijah stayed late, practicing on cracked clay and broken tools. He learned about form, balance, expression. He read about artists he could barely pronounce, Rhode, Bernini, Orozco, but he understood their language through his fingers. One night, while browsing the internet on a borrowed laptop, Elijah stumbled upon a national student art contest. The theme was Voice Without Words, art that spoke without language. He didn't know if he had any chance, but he knew he had to try. For weeks, he worked on a single sculpture, a boy with his hands over his ears, surrounded by broken homes, but looking up at the sky with hope in his eyes. He called it The Sound of Clay. Mrs. Garner helped him ship the piece. Elijah didn't expect to hear back, but 2 months later, a letter arrived. He had won first place, a full scholarship to the Rhode Island School of Design, an invitation to showcase his work in New York. Elijah stared at the letter in disbelief. He ran all the way to his mother's work to show her. She cried in the janitor's closet, holding the letter like it was made of gold. New York was another universe. Skyscrapers, flashing lights, people who had never tasted poverty. Elijah stood beside his sculpture at the exhibit, wearing a borrowed jacket and trembling hands. A man approached him. "Did you make this?" "Yes, sir." "You have a gift," the man said. "This piece, this speaks." The man was a professor at a prestigious art institute. He offered to mentor Elijah personally. Over the next 4 years, Elijah's life transformed. He traveled, exhibited in cities he couldn't pronounce, and found a voice through his art he never had in real life. He found friends who saw beyond his accent, mentors who pushed his limits, and classes that challenged him in ways he never imagined. He sculpted pieces that spoke of trauma, love, injustice, and redemption. His hands shaped not just clay, but memory, grief, and truth. He was invited to international galleries. One of his pieces, titled Mother's Hands, inspired by his mom cleaning floors in silence, was displayed at the Louvre's emerging artist wing. But amid all the fame, Elijah never forgot the rust-colored roads of Mississippi. After graduation, he returned, not to stay, but to give back. He founded a program called Clay Speaks, mobile art studios that visited underfunded schools across the South. Kids who had never seen real sculpture tools now molded dreams with their own hands. In one small town, a boy named Jamal hugged Elijah after a workshop. "No one ever told me I was good at anything before," he whispered. Elijah smiled. "Now you know." He raised funds, partnered with libraries, and even trained teachers to use clay as therapy. He saw teenagers pour pain into pottery, girls shape stories into figurines, boys molded grief into dragons. Clay became not just an art, but a language. He gave TED Talks titled Healing with Hands. His story was featured on NPR and Time, and he was invited to the White House as a youth art ambassador. But every time someone asked about his biggest achievement, he would say, "That I helped someone else believe they mattered. That's the sound of clay." One winter, Elijah returned to the very creek where it all began. His sister, now in college, joined him. They sat in silence, fingers digging into the cold mud. "You remember the first bird you made here?" she asked. "I do," Elijah said. "It had broken wings. I didn't know how to fix them, but you made them anyway," he smiled. "That's what we do, right? We make beauty from the broken." In that moment, surrounded by the same soil that once stained his childhood hands, Elijah realized something. He had come full circle, not to end the story, but to begin others. Moral of the story: talent doesn't need wealth to bloom. It needs belief, support, and a little light. Even in the most forgotten corners, art finds a way. Elijah didn't just sculpt clay, he sculpted hope for himself and for others. And in doing so, he proved that our stories don't begin or end with where we come from. They begin with what we choose to do next. Sometimes the quietest hands make the loudest impact. That's the sound of clay.